Hey everyone, welcome to another community live stream. I'm your host, Nelson. Thank you for joining me today. Well, as you see at the bottom of the stream, the title is we're doing another community quarterly live update in live Q&A with our CEO, Vlad. And so we have a lot to get to today. So let's just quickly bring in Vlad, our CEO of Webflow. Hey Vlad, how you doing?
Hey Nelson, hey everyone. I'm doing great. So happy to be here. Excited for this and actually excited to just get rolling. I know sometimes we do like some intro stuff, but today I'm just super excited to jump into it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So, yeah, speaking of which, let's just jump right in. All right. Ooh, my voice cracking. I'm just so excited. Okay, so our agenda today is pretty simple. Two things. We're gonna start with our Q&A, and then we're gonna close out with some community spotlights. So, if you have any questions for Vlad, go ahead and submit them now. There's a link pinned to the top of the chat, and our moderators Lacey and Matthew, thank you so much. They will pass them over to me, and then I will ask them to Vlad. All right, so that's simple. Let's get started with our Q&A. You ready, Vlad?
Yeah, I mean, can we just like appreciate how many people are in the chat dialing in from pretty much everywhere? My favorite was Sasha dialing in from Ukraine. I know we're all excited here to talk about all things Webflow and get to the community's questions. But I don't know, just driving into work today had this realization that there's so many more serious things going on in the world. And, the war in Ukraine is as active as ever. And just wanted to center and hold both of those realities for a moment, and also just appreciate so many people taking time out of their day, some out of their night, just to be here to spend time together in the community. So appreciate you all. Hi to everyone already saying where they're from. And this is just honestly some of the most exciting times in my job, in our team with Webflow, is just to spend this special time with the community. So super happy to dive in.
Yes, yes. All right. So again, get your questions in and we'll queue them up. All right. So first question that I'd like to ask is it's about last quarter. This is all like a recap of last quarter. And the biggest news from last quarter is
By the way,
that
that's when you know when you're an adult, is when you start talking about time in quarters.
oh
When you're a
yeah.
kid, you talk about time in quarters because that's how you get paid usually for like little jobs. But when you're saying quarters, that's like real adult
Oh
words.
man. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
almost like saying fortnight. I'll be there in a fortnight or something. That's kind of what quarters feels like to me. But yeah,
Oh,
it's
now
been 3 months.
Fortnite means something completely different nowadays.
Right. Yeah, it's been a minute since we did one of these last ones.
A minute, a quarter, a fortnight. Choose. All right. So, the biggest news was the Series C round of funding. So, Vlad, what are your thoughts from that funding?
Well, hopefully, you got a chance to see my letter to the community on our blog about just what it means, why we did it, what it means for the future of Webflow. And it's really the continuation of us funding our mission and vision in a way that gives us the ability to be bold and courageous with our investments and where we spend time, how we invest our time, resources, funds, who we partner with, et cetera. And it's just only increases the chance of our success. And I know we're going to talk about it a little bit more in the future. It helped us fund things like the community grant program, which I'm so excited to talk more about.
Yes.
But ultimately, it's about preparing for we've always said we're building a foundational company that's going to be here for decades, if not centuries, that is generational, that you can build your business on, that becomes the world's best visual development platform. We're only scratching the surface of what's possible, and this funding, this partnership is just more fuel towards our ability to do that while still maintaining control of our destiny, really making sure that we're building towards the same vision that we had for this, that I put in my senior project in 2005, that you can still look up online, and it won't be much different from what we're building today. So a lot more on the blog post if you haven't had a chance to look at it, but it's going to enable us to do so much more in the future.
Yeah, you're talking about like decades and whatnot, and I think it'll bring a tear to my eye
It's
when I
almost been
finally.
a decade. I think we're going to celebrate 10 years since incorporation, since this fourth incorporation of Webflow this September. So
Whew.
talk about measuring time in quarters.
Time in decades now.
That's dimes, right? Dimes of years? Dimes? 10? I don't know. Whatever.
Okay. Yeah, 10 pennies, 1 dime. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So
Sorry, I've been dimed to squeeze in some puns. That one was not planned. All right.
all right. All right. All right. We'll slide. We'll keep going. All right.
Yeah.
So this next question, what about those? Okay, so what about those in the community who are concerned from the Series C round of funding that Webflow is now only focusing on enterprise customers?
I've heard that concern. I understand it. We've actually heard that same concern after our Series A, our Series B, and our Series C. And I just want to ensure to this entire community, we are building, our mission is to empower everyone to create for the web. Like, we fundamentally believe that the act of software creation, that building for the web, something that is so empowering, this new medium, that is unlocking so much economic opportunity for so many people, but still reserved to the very few who know how to code. Our mission is to empower everyone. And we've been focused. Sure, we are also expanding to larger teams that might be considered enterprise companies, but that doesn't mean that we are exclusively focusing there. We are creating a product that can be used by small teams, freelancers, service providers, agencies as they grow, small startups, larger startups as they start to build out more and more focus on their marketing, and increasingly larger and larger companies. And that funds our ability to keep building this company on our own terms. And this funding doesn't change that whatsoever. It doesn't change. It doesn't add any pressure or any investor direction to go in a different path than where we're going. We are always focusing on how do we create we have this concept of the infinite game. How do we create a company that will be able to fuel our ability to sustain and fund our mission and vision for as long as possible, while also really factoring in real human beings, what our impact is on the world through our business decisions, through the product we build, through the business that we create, as a means for us to sustain our ability to do that for as long as possible. And we are deeply committed to making sure that our visual development platform is used by everyone who wants to build professional things on the web, build a business around it, build a living around it, create for others, create for themselves, make sure that their startup or their idea or their business can take off faster, get their idea out there faster, iterate faster, validate business ideas faster, and it's actually the same people, the same designers, the same content editors, the same creators who are, whether they work at a larger company on a marketing team or whether they're a solo entrepreneur, freelancer, or starting a small agency or a budding agency on Webflow. It's the same visual web development tools. We're investing more and more into collaboration tools so that a client can work together with a company, or a large company can work together with each other. So our focus is always on how do we make sure that both sides of the market, small individuals and larger companies, are able to be successful with visual development. And this funding doesn't change that. It only amplifies our ability to create the best possible visual development platform in the world. So,
for decades and quarters and dimes
and centuries at some point, yes.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
So let's go ahead and drill down into features that have been announced at No Code Conf. I know a lot of people in the community would love to get a status update for those features.
Oh, one thing before we go there, one thing I did want to mention is the community grant program that I mentioned along with our Series C. That is, hopefully everyone here sees that as an extension of our, I don't know what to call it other than like a love letter to this community, the magic that's already happening in this community, from people teaching each other, creating resources, creating ways, whether it's entire companies to empower others in the Webflow ecosystem and in the no-code ecosystem to be successful with entering the space of developing for the web, developing things that are so valuable that other people are willing to pay for them so much that people are making a living, and in many times creating entire new products. And the community grant program is so much of an investment in our view into speeding up a lot of the magic that's already happening, removing as much friction as possible from that experience of like, hey, I have an idea of like a new type of academy to teach others to be visual developers or to create agencies, or how to become a more effective freelancer, or how to get business, how to spin up new community programs and events in other countries, or create content and enablement for other people who are just coming up to speed in Webflow but maybe don't speak English. And this is our foray into to just removing as many of those barriers as possible. So if you have an idea for like, hey, I want to do this virtual event that is, I don't know, gets all the creative juices flowing, gets a lot of new people together to connect in the Webflow community and ecosystem, et cetera. Like, remove as many of those monetary and operational roadblocks as possible to get that into the hands of people much sooner. So I'm just giddy to get this out there, where we have a lot of details that we're still polishing up to make sure that like legally, financially, technically, all the bits are in order. And I know so many people have already contacted me with ideas of what they're going to submit for programs that they want to see grants go towards, and I just can't wait for this to go live. And I think it's especially going to be noticed by people who are just getting started in the Webflow ecosystem, like people who want to become visual developers, people who want to become freelancers, people who want to build an agency, people who want to make a living and find ways to find clients and build for the web. So I'm just can't wait to get that out into your hands.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for the community grants program because of more. I mean, I started on YouTube, and to see more YouTube tutorials in non-English languages. Like lots of the tutorials out there are in English, but like imagine this is a global community, and we need more people to step up, and we're gonna help you all step up with this grants program. So super excited about that. And I know I kind of
we want to make especially international content and programs a dime a dozen. Does that make sense? Is that a phrase that?
Is this because Series C?
And we don't want to nickel and dime people if you want to submit like reimbursements or ideas for Webflow events and things like that. Moving on.
Thank you, Vlad. Thank you.
We need to like budget some sort of like Vlad distraction time here. Make these things 2 hours.
I can't keep up. I can't. All right. So we're going to move on to No Code Conf. So we had a couple announcements during that event, and again, the community is wondering what's the status update on each of those features. So Vlad, let us know.
Oh, so many. The NCC was obviously huge for us, and I keep hammering this every single time we talk to the community. As I said earlier, the entire theme of No Code Conf, and I hope you see from Webflow over time, is to empower everyone to create for the web. And it was such a huge step in that direction of building the world's most powerful visual development platform, which is a phrase I think we coined for the first time in that keynote, where no code is a very broad space, and we're really moving into this direction of like how do you get people to believe that you can have a unified visual web development platform that brings together these three core major pillars of software development, those being UI, like with the same styling and superpowers, all the properties that you all know and love that have been part of Webflow's platform. I know we still have a lot more of them to build, but the goal is to give people the same set of superpowers that front-end developers have, like Apple, Stripe, all these, best-in-class companies in the world. And data, we talked about really, really the richness that you can already express in Webflow is one thing, but working on performance and actually extending that scale to go well beyond 10,000 items. I know so many people have been waiting for that, like really creating world-class experiences. We've been investing a ton of time to make sure that later this year we can unlock so much more scalability with that data layer. And that last big piece, like logic, which has been for us this concept of a central nervous system that connects everything from like user actions in the UI to backend events, and we've poured so much blood, sweat, and tears into that work since NCC. That so Logic is the last piece that's still not released. Everything else is already in some way, shape, or form in users' hands. Backdrop filters, blending modes that dropped right away. Workspaces. I hope people have seen so much more value in like the way that we've been unlocking more and more collaboration. That's still in the very beginning phases too. Like we'll be adding more and more aspects to our collaboration between clients and teams, in-house teams and larger marketing teams to work together to really, really be as effective as possible as businesses work together, as agencies work with companies, as agencies work within themselves, with more robust roles and permissions, more features coming in how people are working together at the same time. There's been a bunch of CMS improvements that we've shipped, and you've probably seen more and more like what is not always announced, but comes as really nice improvements that have cleared a lot of the foundational things that we've built around No Code Conf. We've started to ship much faster in our CMS improvements area because of the investments that we made before. And memberships is already in a ton of community testing. We really, really want to get it right, because when people are building entire businesses on Webflow, things that start to approach things like Masterclass, where you're making revenue off of something that you're selling and you're getting content already being used in production, but we really are heads down talking to those users, making sure that what we release to go broadly to the entire community is really in tip-top shape. So that's we want to expand it to as many people as soon as possible, and working incredibly hard. I know the team is every single week checking in, getting closer and closer to opening up that to the entire community. And Logic is, believe me, it is the biggest moment for Webflow in the past 6 years. We were really excited to announce it. Part of it was that just because we were so giddy to let the world know about our this foray into this big hopefully last pillar of software development that gives you it's like a new language that gives you such deep ability to create not just what you imagine something looking like or how it's structured, but start to go deeper and deeper into really complex business workflows that start to expand the scope of what's possible in Webflow truly into web application development. And I'm reviewing and playing with it constantly. The team is constantly iterating. It's already working internally, and it just can't wait to get into your hands. This is like one of those things where once you see it, once you actually start to, I recently played with a demo where you submit, before you had to do all of this stuff with getting our API connected to other tools and kind of getting things into the CMS and having to mentally track how these things all fit together. But being able to say, I submit a form and I have this visual flow that describes exactly what I want it to do, and then it ends up in the database, in the data, and it's that working end to end. I just can't wait for everyone here to start having access to that incredible power.
Yes. I can't wait to, and a lot of people in the live chat is hyped up for it too. So big question right here that everyone's wondering, myself included. When are these things launching?
I know that is a huge question. Like I said, our teams are working on every single week trying to solidify the exact ship date so that we, when we communicate something, we are very confident in what we're shipping. Let's just say it's going to be a really exciting summer. Or winter if you're in the southern hemisphere, not winter if you're in the northern hemisphere. So it's going to be a really great summer. I'll just say that. But we're so close to getting it across the line so that everybody in this community has access to these incredible new tools.
Seems like things are warming up. I tried. I tried.
All
Please.
right, I see that. I see that. It's like a
I can't
it's
get
like a
your level.
weather.
It's, you're a master at these dad jokes. All right. All right.
Well, since
So
we're talking about weather, I am in the cloud. We are in the cloud business, I guess.
see, I can't. How do I can't compete. All
You
right.
just got to be more sassy. It's a software as a service reference.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone. I'll just log off.
No, no, no. There's more questions in queue,
Okay.
like this one. So a lot of people in the community is, wondering about prioritization decisions. Like how do you make these decisions, and more specifically, how do you make a decision to sunset a feature like client billing?
That is probably the hardest thing across all of Webflow is looking at the huge spectrum of opportunity that we have as a company. Like look at the entire breadth of visual software development, all the things that we have to do that essentially catch up to, and for many people replace the need to learn how to code, and with limited time, limited resources, limited people, limited the things that we can actually, and the complexity that exists in building these things, that's the hardest part of figuring out what to work on and what not to work on. And when it comes to something like client billing, it was honestly an incredibly hard decision that we had to look at across a 2-year and 3-year time horizon. Like what actually increases our chance to be really, really stellar of where we truly shine and where we are unique, which is visual web development and being able to say, I can create visually with no code and build an entire website or in the future an application. And where do we maybe not stand the chance of being best in class? Like, I don't think we'll ever be, nor should we ever want to be the best invoicing software in the world. That is fundamentally, or same thing with something like maybe building like an email tool like MailChimp, et cetera. Yes, a lot of those things would be so much better when they're integrated directly with the website, but we really have to focus our attention on things that everybody in this community and where Webflow is truly unique and differentiated. That's where we have chosen to invest our time. And it's a really, really hard trade-off because for things that I know so many people in this community want, like for example, we've been talking, through multiple Q&As about something like multi-language. And when we think about client billing, it actually being able to say that we are removing a lot of technical complexity in our billing systems, a lot of operational complexity internally around, because client billing doesn't just come with product complexity and maintenance complexity as we build out things like Workspaces and more collaboration models, the way that we collect revenue and have to split it between a client and another business that they are servicing. It also really reduces tax complexity and compliance complexity from having to issue 1099s or different ways of working with governments across different countries. And by removing that complexity, we fundamentally increase our ability to focus our efforts on things like multi-language, on things like logic and memberships, on things that are so central to where Webflow shines. And of course, I've been a freelancer where as I was starting Webflow, the first, second, third time was moonlighting as a freelancer where I had a bunch of clients that I had to set up on invoicing software. I totally feel the pain of having to manage that relationship, especially when you're switching systems or something like that. And it was a really, really hard decision to be able to say that, hey, this is something that is going to be a hard transition for many people. But fundamentally, we looked at the 2 and 3 year time horizon and thought, what is actually better for our overall community, for our overall platform, and our ability to focus on things where people will be able to say, hey, Webflow got the central core parts right faster, like our core visual development platform natively, in things that really, really make us best in class. And that's what it came down to. And it's a it's a super hard trade-off. I know sometimes from the outside it might look like it's just a money decision, or it's something where where if we had the money or if we had the time, we could have kept investing. That's fundamentally true, but it does, like I said a little bit earlier, it does detract our ability to focus on the things that I know everyone here in this room wants to see Webflow do faster, like the core fundamental parts of our visual development technology, that being able to focus less on trying to win in other areas, as painful as it is through this transition, gives us the ability to move faster on all of these other things. And hopefully you've already seen a lot more of this play out, not just from the things that we've announced as like major large features that have already landed or are coming soon, but things like CSS outlines, like all the accessibility features or related things like focus and keyboard state that we've been shipping over the last few months, like FlexGap, like superscript and subscript. Like I know it's not a major thing for some people, but for many others, like every single time I need something small like that, I have to jump into custom code. And unlocking more of those things, it just means like we can take and channel our energy on like the core parts where we shine best. So there's so much more coming there, and I totally feel the pain around that transition, and hope you all understand the the trade-offs that we're faced with, and ultimately I think you'll be proud of the decisions that we made because it'll mean that the things that Webflow really needs to get better at will come faster.
All right. Right. Well, thank you so much for answering those questions. I think we're gonna go a little bit faster now with the speed round of questions. All right.
Awesome.
So let's get to it. And again, if you have any questions you want to send to Vlad, go ahead and queue them up. Submit them in the Airtable form that we have pinned to the top of the live chat. And again, Lacey, Matthew, thank you so much for helping us out, monitoring those questions in the chat, and they will send them over to me, and I'll give them to Vlad.
Thank you, Lacey. Thank you, Matthew.
Yes, thank you. All right, next question. Here we go.
I can just imagine that, like you're in the field passing buckets along. I'll take the question, pass along to Lacey, pass along to Matthew, pass along to Nelson, and finally I get it. It's almost like
it's a team effort.
Team effort. That's right.
Team effort. All right. So this one's from Chris. Hey Vlad, thanks for taking the time. As someone who's been essential in shaping the no-code movement, do you feel some personal responsibility for how the decisions you make at Webflow will impact how other tools and communities will take shape in the future? And how do you navigate that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a huge responsibility. Like I mentioned earlier, no code is a massively expanding space. It's almost like a philosophy now. There's so many more companies that are building with the theme of no code. I've always repeated I want to see people succeed building software, no matter how what their path to doing that is, whether that's through new companies rising in the space. Our mission is not to suppress that, but to get more companies trying out more new things. And it's a rising tide lifts all boats type of philosophy.
Yeah, seeing a lot of small businesses sprouting up, like a JetBoost or Flowbase. Just a lot of people like.
That is shocking, by the way, to me, the fact that there are now businesses built around Webflow. I would never imagine that 10 years ago.
You didn't expect that, yeah. All right, next question.
The thing that really boggles my mind now is when I see startup pitches that say Webflow 4X. That just is, like people used to say Airbnb, but for whatever. Yeah. So somebody will say Webflow, but for mobile, or Webflow, but for, I don't know. Oh, yeah. Like cats. I don't know how that makes sense, but just even seeing the fact that Webflow has had that kind of influence is pretty surreal.
Are we a verb yet? Yeah, like are we a verb yet? Like I Webflow that. Well, we should make it verb. All right, next question. Will the market for Webflow be the same as it is now and continue to grow?
I think we're barely scratching the surface. I think I said somewhere maybe a few months ago or six 12 months ago, that I really do think that through Webflow, there will be more than $100 billion of economic value or income generated either through people creating a business as a freelancer or a service provider, or creating a new product or service with no code on the platform. So to me, it just feels like we're barely scratching the surface. So it's gonna grow massively over the next decade, 2 decades, because I really do think that today, even though we've been doing this, talking about no code and empowerment and democratization of software creation for half a decade now, if not longer, we're still sub 5% of the world even understanding what can be done. So it's absolutely going to continue to grow.
Yeah, this community is growing faster than ever. So yes, it's going to grow. Rapid fire. So we talked about NCC launches. What else is the team focus on besides NCC launches?
Whew, there's so much. A lot of things I already mentioned that we've been shipping recently, like CSS outlines, FlexGap. By the way, FlexGap, I've personally been rebuilding some of my internal sites that I've built with one of my daughters, and it's like 1,000 steps saved. That I really love. I mean, there's a lot of very compliance-oriented things like SOC 2 compliance for security that is taking a lot of attention. There's a lot of really improvements that speed things up, like CSS class search and style manager, a bunch of collaboration improvements, things that you might not notice in the CMS, like even tiny things like size and ratio limits in the CMS that just start to pop in and appear over time. There's more page aware editing that's going to be happening in the designer, and is already under. There's some really interesting collaboration models that we're working through, and so much more. I know I've mentioned a lot around bringing in the ability for others to start to build on top of Webflow. Some really exciting things there that I just can't announce yet, and this is where I really struggle. I don't want to overpromise with what we have on the table, because sometimes we have to make the decision of something that looks promising now that we're actually working on now is not going to manifest, and we kind of have to pull it back. But it's just stay tuned for more updates there.
All right. Don't know how to say this name. Didier. Didier. Okay. So. Question is the Q&A suitable for brand new members with no or very little Webflow knowledge? Oh, I can take this one. Yes, these live streams are meant for everyone in the Webflow community and the no-code community, including those who just joined us a couple of minutes ago. So if you just joined us, say, a minute ago or right before I asked this question, yes, we are welcoming you all here. So yeah, every week we stream these usually on Wednesdays. So yeah, you're welcome here and welcome to the community. All right, next question. I'm the leader of a 5-person design agency from Germany. We've built our agency based on Webflow and we love it, but we lose a lot of clients because there is no GDPR valid hosting option, which are based on servers in the EU. Do you have a solution for that in the near future? All the best from Germany.
Thank you for that question. I know GDPR is a very popular topic. I see a lot of questions. Just glancing at the questions that have been in the chat, I see, because it's always in caps. You can see that more often. We are absolutely committed to data privacy. We've already released a lot of information about our approach to privacy, and currently building out a really rich online privacy center that's going to be launching more in a much more robust version in the second half of this year. And it's ultimately really comes down to trade-offs. I would love to consider something like a totally dedicated EU data center that 100% cleanly separates the operations and hosting of Webflow in Europe, apart from every other country, or the U.S. where the vast majority of our current infrastructure relies on a technical level. It's a matter of trade-offs, right? That would be a large amount of technical, operational, financial, and rigorous complexity that would detract from our ability to build native things like logic, memberships, multi-language, etc. And it's really a matter of being able to make that trade-off between, okay, what are the paths to being able to ensure the clients that you work with, the service providers, all of you who have customers, all the agencies there, around what actually happens with your data, because so many companies are struggling with this right now, where being able to completely separate infrastructure between the EU and elsewhere is a really, really, really hard thing that can take half a decade in many cases. And so many companies are really figuring out and navigating the space of how do you make sure you do the right thing for what actually happens to the data and how transparent you are around like where that data lies, who uses it, which in our case, we go to great lengths to make sure that the people who are the site visitors who are visiting sites have a transparency around what is tracked and not tracked. We do not track anything that we're not a company that thrives on data whatsoever. We are a platform that empowers people to create things that solve a business purpose for them, right? We have no interest in doing anything with anyone's data. What direction we are moving towards, though, and I'm very encouraged by this. So recently, the EU and the US have started talking about the Transatlantic Data Privacy Framework, sometimes referred to as Privacy Shield 2.0, which is a really robust effort to make sure that the transfer of data between the two jurisdictions complies with the spirit and the details of regulations like GDPR, so that there's more guidance and more reassurance that the same set of principles that are applied in the US are still hold true to how the data is managed and stored in the U.S. And we have, as a company, decided that we will assume always in the future that the most I won't say restrictive, but the most privacy-centric laws worldwide are the ones that we're working towards. So we already don't make any of our business bets on the ability to do anything with data, nor have we ever, because we assume that consumer laws and data privacy laws will always trend towards doing the right things for site visitors, for people, for organizations, et cetera, not for big tech businesses that thrive off of selling data, et cetera. So that is our current direction, to make sure that we are very early into self-certifying and working with the EU and US government agencies to make sure that we are part of the Transatlantic Data Privacy Framework. So many of our companies are working in that direction as a way to reinforce that the data that is, might originate from traffic in Europe, but is ultimately stored in the US or processed in the US, abides by the same rules as what the intention is behind the GDPR. But the trade-offs that we've made internally are, it would take us years to set up and tens, if not more, of millions of dollars to create, and probably double the engineering team just to have the same exact functionality we have today, but maintain two totally separate infrastructures to be able to say, on a philosophical level, there's a complete separation of our infrastructure. So it is really, really hard, and companies with many more, orders of magnitude resources than us are struggling with this as well. And that's where we're really relying on things like the Transatlantic Data Privacy Framework to make sure that those reassurances exist that make it easier for you to sell to those clients and give assurances that data is safe with Webflow.
Yeah. All right. John in the chat is saying, thank you for taking privacy so seriously, which we do. Another reason Webflow is the best. Yeah, so thank you for answering that question, Vlad. All right, next one. Ezekiel's asking, timeline on getting team accounts switched to Workspaces. Thanks.
I don't have an exact timeline. I can actually take that, so I don't want to mess up with the incorrect guidance. So I will actually have the team take that question, and Ezekiel, if we'll find a way to answer that with more concrete definition.
Okay. Next
but
one.
As we're working on it as quickly as possible.
All right. Anshu is asking, or Anshul, what would you say to someone building their business solely on Webflow in terms of what they should do to succeed? Oh.
Oof. Building a business, regardless of what platform you're building on, is incredibly hard. the hardest part is finding customers, describing the value that you bring in that interaction, like creating a solution for them that they're so valuable that they come to you again and again. So it's kind of like age old advice: do great work, be
Yeah.
honest about what you do best, and present that in a great light. Earn your customers' trust. Be really intentional about one thing I believe is be really intentional about like doing work that you find fulfilling, and that is helps you get through the tough times, because there's always going to be tough times working with clients doing tough builds on Webflow that are very complex when you're doing it for the first time, and you're kind of hitting an edge case that you haven't implemented before. So it's kind of age old business advice, right? Like do great work, and have a good relationship with your customers, and don't you know don't practice shady kind of growth tactics. And over time, just like with Webflow, it's before you know it, like a decade later, you're an overnight success.
Yeah. Yep. Totally agree on all those points. All right. Next one is from the Floxies community. Hello. Dear Vlad, what is it that you would like to see from the many amazing communities out there?
Ooh, I am just so every time I've been spending less and less time on Twitter than historically, but when people send me stuff, I just love seeing when people are spending time together. It's like the Webflow parties, or the events that people have to talk about giving, sharing advice with each other, and just spending time together, like building that community. That's what, like, that I just thrive off that energy. And I actually want to see more and more in-person things come back. Like, one of my dreams is to do a traveling, like, 2 or 3 weeks, where when Webflow like chapter program, and when there's like more and more events that one is happening every few days, just do like a traveling tour and drop by across hopefully probably not all 7 continents, but let's say 6, and be able to just spend time with the community, and see what people are building, what they're excited by. And to me, that is the most exciting part. It's not anything specific like go introduce Webflow to more people. It's really about being there for other people who are looking to understand how to do that next step that how to do, but maybe they don't. And that's the most magical part about this community, is that when you see somebody one step behind you, is like pulling them up. And when you see that somebody is ahead of you in terms of experience, or community knowledge, etc., reaching out to them and forming that relationship that only amplifies the ability for this community to grow.
Yes, I love that, the aha moment when you share something in Webflow and they're like, "What? You can do that?" I mean, it's always good to see happen, especially in person. All right, next one, Roger. Not really a question. I wanted to say thank you to Vlad and the team. They are not just making a tool; they are changing lives. Ooh.
Ooh, thank you, Roger. We can't get that, let that get to our heads. But also that feels like such a deep responsibility, because it's not just our tool and our platform empowering people to do something. We just feel such a deep responsibility, because you're making a living off of Webflow. Entire marketing teams rely on Webflow being available to meet their goals, etc. So thank you for saying that. That really means a lot.
Yes. All right. Next one. Amy, can you explain a bit about the benefit of converting static pages to CMS pages? Any tips on avoiding common errors you've seen? Um,
I mean, to me, the biggest benefit is scale. Because when
okay.
you're building on dynamic pages, you're almost like enforcing a more component-minded type of system. That way, when you're making changes in the future, you're able to systematically make those updates across the board, rather than like going to tens and tens of pages and making changes. It's almost like symbols on another level, and we're working towards like true component functionality in Webflow over time that will only make that easier to do. So static pages are wonderful. That's where we started, but dynamic pages is where the vast majority of the web has moved on to, because you usually want to build for scale and for consistency, and CMS pages help you do that.
Okay. All right. Next one. For people using client billing, what is the migration path like?
There's so many steps there. I I'm not going to be able to articulate all of the migration path steps, but our team has shared a lot of the steps, through email, through everybody that's affected. Like I mentioned before, I understand it's a big migration for many folks, and we've partnered with Bonsai to cover as many costs as possible. I know some people have mentioned that there's some sort of like cut or something. We have gone to great lengths to make sure that we extend that timeline as much as we can, and have actually invested into making sure that even at pretty large cost to us in terms of that transition, we want to make sure that we give as much affordance, as much time for people to transition, while also being mindful of, as we start next year, a lot of the benefits that I mentioned of being able to focus on the ability to say, okay, this layer of complexity of client billing is not a major factor in developing big structural things like CMS improvements, CMS scalability, multi-language components, et cetera. So we have an entire Webflow University article on how to migrate. And again, our customer support team is here to support through all those use cases. We will work with everyone. If you have like complex use cases, please reach out to our team. We will work with you to make sure we have the ability to extend those timelines on an individual basis, on a group basis, et cetera. We will work with you to make that transition as smooth as possible.
Yep. Our support team is here to help. All right. Aaron is asking, are memberships and logic intertwined? Will they be released at the same time, or could they be released separately depending on which is ready first? How are we doing that?
There is quite a bit of intertwining. So the whole concept behind a really cohesive, integrated visual development platform is that concepts like users and concepts like logic are deeply aware of each other. So yes, they're intertwined, but we are not tying them so closely together that one has to be completely finished to work on the other. As you can see, so many people are already using in our community memberships today with our private alpha or beta. I forget exactly the labeling, but that is, even though logic is being built around the users and memberships concepts, they might come closer together just because there are so many dependencies. But whenever one is ready first, we will ship it before the other one is ready. They're not that closely tied that they have to go out together.
Okay. All right. This one's from Omar. Why do you personally care about embedding inclusion and belonging in your culture? What is most important to your organization, mission, vision, or values? And lastly, what is the number one aspect that you look for as a trait in all of your employees when bringing them onto a team?
Ooh, that's so many questions.
Yeah.
I'll try to answer as quickly as possible because I know we have a lot of questions. Ultimately, it's because of our mission to empower everyone to create. If we say we want to be, really awesome at this X thing, if we were saying that was our sole goal, if it wasn't about empowerment of everyone, then that'd be a much harder question to answer. But it's easy because in order to empower everyone, we really have to make sure that we are intentionally inclusive in thinking about how are we going to actually move from 1% of the world building software to hopefully as many humans as possible. And that means we have to hire and attract people who deeply care about that, who care about others, who care about empowering others, not just like working on a cool thing that is like a shiny piece of technology, et cetera. So that's why it's so embedded in our culture. We really want to make sure that the product that we create is so reflective of the community that we're creating it for, and that we are seeing, just like when something ships or some experience, lands somewhere, when somebody who has that empathy for a broad range of human experiences and identities, like it has been considered, and you really increase your chance of doing that by default when you have a very diverse team. So for us, it's just really, really important to bake that into just the way that we work together, and it just feels good. Like it feels good
Yeah.
to like be included in a community or in a group of people that represents so many different viewpoints and experiences, and it's just the right thing to do. So for me, it really means the ultimate success of our mission is greatly increased, both the pace and the quality and the chance of success by having a team that can really represent the kind of world and the kind of community that we're trying to build for.
Okay. All right. Rapid fire. Got to get through as many as we can. Next one, Joshua. Is there any future intention to allow simultaneous collaboration in the Webflow Designer for Teams? Oh, like Google Docs or Figma.
Yes, we want to move in that direction. There's a lot of complexity in moving there. It's not going to happen overnight, but that is the ultimate intention.
All right. Next one. What's your number one tip for standing out when applying for a job at Webflow?
Ooh, it's hard to say. I think the thing that's always stood out the most, but we have to be careful about that not being the only signal, is when people make a site in Webflow that talk about themselves as a person, like why they are excited about like the role or the specific thing that they're interested in, and that's just so hard to ignore, right? Because it's the narrative,
Yeah.
it's storytelling. It's almost like the Webflowification of a resume, and it's just
Yeah.
really special, and it's hard to ignore.
Any bonus points if they add puns to the website?
I am no longer involved in most of the hiring process, so I can't. And I'm sure we have bias reduction processes to make sure that that's not overly weighed.
Okay.
So no comment.
Okay. All right. Next one. We're going back to Ezekiel's question. Timeline on getting team accounts switched to Workspaces.
Oh, I think that already came up. So the number of team, I think we're already switching over some team accounts to Workspaces steadily over the past few weeks. We'll continue to do that over the coming weeks, and I think over the next like 3 or 4 weeks, most accounts should be finalized. I don't have like the final answer on that, but I hope our team is able to post an update after we're done here. So that's the latest that I have.
All right. Last question we got in. Dale Jansen. How likely is? Second to last. Sorry. Okay. How likely is an in-person NCC this November? Oh, yes.
I might be. Should I? 100% likely. 100% likely.
Oh. The
We.
hype.
I can't guarantee the size, but it's 100% likely.
Okay. Awesome.
Not 99. 100%
100.
likely.
Okay.
Even if it's 2 people, it's 100% likely.
Okay. All right. So last one was in person. Got it. All right. So absolutely love the passion, the Webflow team, of the Webflow team. How do you keep everyone aligned while empowering them to take risks and do the best they can in their role? Would love to join the team one day.
Ooh, what a hard question. And it's actually the question that I think every company has to answer around: how do you create a fulfilling and impactful experience in the work that you do? And for one, we talk more about it, like, meaning like we talk about it to solicit understanding of like what actually brings impact and fulfillment. And it's always really hard because there's a lot of priorities that may feel super urgent. Sometimes when something goes down, or when we have to do really complex migrations, like some of the ones that we've talked about, and ultimately it comes down to talking a lot about the ultimate mission and vision of the company, and creating an environment where people feel truly like they are safe to speak up about their ideas, about their concerns, about their experience, for the purpose of understanding better how our work experience or our journey as a team that's building towards this mission that empowers others can be something that we can be proud of, not just what we built, but how we built not just the platform, but the way that we interact with each other, the way we serve each other, the way we show up for each other. And there's not a single answer to that. It's like a decades-long journey to try to get better every day, and that's our goal here. So, and we'd love to have you join the team one day. I don't know who asked the question, but I'm pretty sure we'll be many orders of magnitude bigger in the future to truly meet our ambitions. So there's lots of room on the rocket ship.
Yes. Oh, rocket ship. All right. All right. So that's all the time we have for questions today. We're going to move on to our community spotlight. And by the way, Vlad will be here next quarter to answer even more questions. So thank you to everyone who submitted them early or in the live chat. Yes, thank you. All right. So first community spotlight, I just want to give a shout out to the team at Finsweet for hosting and creating the Webflow Global Open House. I mean, it just felt so awesome to see the global community come together once again and on again a global scale. Like they had this virtual map that everyone was standing on, like where are you from, and it was just so beautiful to see. So thank you all. You can rewatch that over at global-meetup.webflow.io.
It's one of my favorite things to call into and kick off. I can't wait for more of these.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Finsweet team. All right. Also, shout out to the Webflow Cafe. It's a community of Spanish-speaking Webflowers created by the team at Edgar Allan, and they meet on Zoom. You can follow them on Twitter using hashtag Webflow Cafe. Next one, shout out to the unofficial Twitter space Webflow Show. It's a great weekly show with different Webflow community member guests, and it's hosted by Keith Armstrong, Melissa Mendez, and Grace Walker.
Ooh, I can't wait to crash one of these. Keith, Melissa, Grace, thank you so much for pulling the community together. I keep hearing amazing things about these.
Yes, yes. So so many events happening, and also shout out to the Great Design Lead podcast, hosted by Emily Giordano. It's a podcast about the lives of no coders. And Vlad, weren't you on this?
Yeah, honestly, it was one of my favorite interviews. I think Emily said we'll need an hour, and I was like, is it really something that we can talk for an hour about? And I think we talked for 2.5 hours. And wow. Honestly, time couldn't fly by faster. Such a great conversation. Thank you, yes. Emily.
And lastly, big shout out to new YouTuber proTeen. She's a
13 years old.
Yeah, she's 13 years old, who's aspiring to be a programmer / data analyst, and she's already building tutorials, a full page rebuild tutorials of like Cheesecake Factory, Rivian. She just published an Airbnb homepage rebuild from scratch.
Hold on, 13 years yes. old. My oldest daughter's 13 years old. This proTeen looks like a username. I wonder if this is like a secret. I'm gonna go check. I gotta check this out. Can you send me a link?
Will do. And all the links will be in the YouTube description below after this stream. But again, her mission is to, quote, empower teens and help them explore their passions through coding.
What an amazing mission. Empower teens to help them explore their passions.
Yeah.
My heart's melting.
Right? So everyone, support her. Subscribe to her channel. Amazing. All right.
My new goal is gonna. How many subscribers does this channel have?
I'm looking at the screen right now. 122.
All right, we're gonna get it to 1,000 before the end of this week.
Let's do it, everyone.
We're gonna get it to 1,000.
All right. Oh, thank you, Matthew, for linking the YouTube channel in the live chat. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this stream. Thank you so much, Vlad, for answering the questions, hanging out with us. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we let you go?
I want to flip that question. There's a it's not my time that's the most valuable here. It's the communities. I'm just such a deep privilege to be part of this community, to just see what has emerged around Webflow over the last 8 years now since we first launched and let folks know about it. And I'm just so deeply thankful to everyone here that is um, I there's like this TED talk, and I'm gonna butcher it, but like, when people look back at their lives, they don't think about the promotions they got, or like the how much money they had in the bank account, but they think about the relationships they built and the
Yeah.
people that they helped. And I see that in just droves in what's happening in this community, and you can't manufacture that. Like our
Mm.
business can be 100 million in revenue, or 1 million in revenue, or 5 bazillion or whatever, and you could throw that away if you have just the magic that is happening in the community, and like in helping supporting others, and help building others up while building
Yeah.
for yourself, while building for others. To me is like the literally the thing that is most responsible for giving me the confidence that I want to keep doing this 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and 100 years from now, if that's even remotely possible. So just deep gratitude to this community. Thank you for just the trust and riding with us through this journey. And honestly, it's just beginning. I know I always say that, but it feels more and more true every day as Webflow expands, and I see so many more amazing things happening in this community. So I'm just
Yes.
so happy that you all are here. I know that there is a lot that we can't wait to deliver for you all. There's so many more things that we can solve, and we are working tirelessly to make sure that we can do that as quickly as possible in a way that is just sustainable and guarantees the success of Webflow over many decades, and guarantees your success, because we really deeply care about that, because we can't succeed if you don't succeed. So thank you all. Thank you, Nelson. You are
Yes.
you are the genesis of this community,
No.
right? Like, we're talking about YouTube videos. You made our very first review, and were so kind through that, and gave us so much encouragement. And now I'm seeing like the Nelson factor multiplied,
Wow.
and it's just the beginning. And I can't wait to see what the community grant program is going to enable to
Yes.
catalyze and speed that up. And just every time we wrap one of these up, I just want to hang out for another hour,
Yeah.
because the people here are so truly special. And just want you all to hear that we're here for you. Our job is to earn your trust, and we feel that responsibility on our shoulders as we think about what we're building day to day. And yeah, we wouldn't be here without you. So appreciate you all.
Thank you.
And the
Thank
entire team at
you.
Webflow. I know sometimes it's so can be so overlooked. The people who are here, many of whom started in the Webflow community, and of course are a deep part of the community now. I just want to, whoever's watching in our team, sometimes this is just, might look like it's only external, but it's such an important part for our team to really deeply understand our customers. And so thankful to everybody working at Webflow to keep investing into our mission and vision for this entire community. So yeah, I'm going to get a little teary eyed here, so I'm just going to stop and hand it over back to you, Nelson.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Vlad, and thank you to everyone who's in the live chat talking, or if you're just watching live, or if you're watching a recording of this. We appreciate each and every one of you for being part of this community, and can't thank you enough for watching. We'll see you next time, and as always, make the web beautiful together. See ya.